This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo. Brace in our headlines. Former Chief Justice Ofer Ekufo describes government's pledge to honor individual bondholders' bond as cheap talk, calling for a written agreement with the Pensioner Bondholders Forum.
Paper talks. Empty talk flies with the wind. Yes. So a press release is one thing.
We'll tell you more, plus a swipe at Gabi Asariochiridako's tweet to a recent comment describing it as worthless for attention.
Insult is the weapon of the pin-brained. That's all I've got to say. I'm not going to trade words with pin-brains.
Now, Communications Minister urges Interior Ministry to increase number of registration points and registration days to allow more people register for the Ghana card. We have details as the MP for Kratche West says the NIA office in the constituency has been closed down due to indebtedness. Now, so some former resident of Commonwealth Hall at the University of Ghana arrested by police after they clashed. Details as tension rises over school management silence on accommodation after court placed an injunction on implementation of a residential policy. Of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum are insisting government must explicitly announce the exemption from the domestic debt exchange program, else they will continue picketing the Ministry of Finance. This is coming at a time government of Ghana has announced the completion of the program. Government says the DDEP closed on Friday, February 10, with over 80% participation. The statement released Monday stated that the ministry has been able to achieve some 85% participation in that DDEP program, and that it was a voluntary process which they continuously made people aware of that particular one. Well, for former Chief Justice Ofer Ekufo, she describes that as cheap talk, the government's pledge to honor the bond of persons who have self-exempted. The former Chief Justice attended Tuesday's picketing to updrum home pensioners' demand for a total exemption from the debt exchange program. To her, this is not a promise government can keep. She has also directly hit at Gabi Asariochiridako for taking a swipe at her for a recent comment. There's more in the following report. On Monday, these pensioners had one last hope that the finance minister will pronounce them exempted from the domestic debt exchange program. But government, in its latest statement Tuesday morning, rather reiterated its unflinching stance that participation in the domestic debt exchange program remains voluntary. Convener of the group, Dr. Edu Anani Entry, says they deserve a response from government.
Why didn't the government tell the pension funds that just opt out, it is voluntary, just opt out and I'll pay you your bonds? Why didn't the government tell the medical people just opt out, become a self-exempt person and I'll pay you your. The government or the minister knows that there's a difference between the issuer exempting you and you exempting yourself. When the issuer exempts you, he has added responsibility because you were not part of the bonds that the issuer says he may not be able to service. So that is where we want to be, that we want the issuer to exempt us. Now the issuer has gotten the 80%, so he's going ahead with the program.
Reacting to the statement, the former Chief Justice Ofer Ekufo registered her disappointment at why government is finding it difficult to respond to their request.
A few days ago, similar letters that had been written to the minister have been responded to, whereby he has categorically exempted other groups. Why? And you know, when I cannot fathom the reason for something being done in a particular way, especially when it's been done for others, but it's not being done for others, I start getting suspicious. I've grown to be to the age where I've seen it all, and therefore I easily become suspicious.
She also reacted to Gabi Asariochiridako's tweet, which sought to downplay the essence of her involvement in the protest.
No, he can decide on. He doesn't decide for me what I need to do and what I do not need to do. It's as simple as that. I don't have time for things like that. People like that are not important to me or to my life. It's a disturbance. That's all I've got to say about it. Listen, sticks and stones may break my bones, but blah blah will not hurt me. No. And insult is the weapon of the pin-brained. That's all I've got to say. I'm not going to trade words with pin brains. I'm sorry.
She says government's continuous resistance to make the call is an affront to the image of the country.
The word bond is not used as a casual term. Bond means tied to. Yes. And when a government's bond can be tossed up and down, the tides like that, flip-flop, that's a serious thing. For me, my problem with this whole thing is the destruction of the image of this nation, and something that is being done which will last for generations. It took a long time before normal Ghanaians would even buy anything that is government, because there was always the suspicion, tomorrow you don't know what will happen.
The group continues to appeal to government to exempt them from the program.
GMA has received such a letter. TUC Pensioner Funds, UTAC has received such a letter. So we are waiting to receive that letter saying that we have been exempted from this DDEP.
We have already written seeking the exemption. So if he comes to make the press conference, I believe he will first have to talk to us before he talks to them, before he goes to the world. If I write to you and you decide to respond, you respond to me before you respond to the world. So it will mean he will write to us and then make a press conference and say, I have even written. And I believe that's why, if he decides to have a press conference, I believe he will do that. He will write.
The pensioner bondholders resume tomorrow to continue their protest. James Kwesi Aveji's report read to you. So with the people who opted not to be part of the DDEP, what is the assurance that government can honor its obligations? Isaac Ofieje of our research desk has been checking the data and joins me in studio with more coffee. What do we know about this particular assurance from government?
Well, so if you look at the touch screen right now, this is the bingo moment for government. It wanted 80% or more. Now we are learning that government has achieved more than 80%, 85% participation rate. And mind you, currently the debt that government actually targeted, or the bonds that they wanted to restructure, was around 97 billion. And they were able to now get the participation of about 83 billion of that 97 billion of those bonds. It's about 85% participation rate.
Okay.
This is the stage that they wanted to reach. This was the rate that government wanted to see, so that they can term this domestic debt exchange as successful. So as we speak, Finance Ministry, they've actually announced the domestic debt exchange as successful.
Okay.
But they are promising, or they are actually assuring bondholders who could not participate in this exchange that they will go ahead to honor, their obligation in actually paying out coupons. Okay. And then also, if your bonds mature, probably government will pay. But the assurance is actually conditioned on something. You get it?
Okay.
So if you look at the first assurance that was given to individual bondholders, they say you can self-exempt. That is the word that they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear self-exemption. They want to hear the same word that you gave to the pension funds, that total exemption. Don't tell us self-exemption, because you've already told us that if you self-exempt, I cannot assure you of the tradability of your bonds. So now let's look at the second slide. If you look at the targets, the initial target was 137 billion Ghana cedis. 137 billion cedis of bonds that government wanted to restructure. As we speak, this has been revised from 137 to 97.7 billion cedis. So huge. The difference is about 40 billion cedis. Now the question is, the key question is, the 40 billion cedis that has been exempted, if you look at pension funds and if you look at individual bondholders, if you combine these two, I am not sure it will cater for this 40 billion cedis. So we are asking the question, is it our government is, Nicodemus was secretly exempting some people? We want to find out. Government must give us the reason why we see this huge difference, because the initial bond was 137 billion and now we are looking at just 97 billion.
Okay.
If not for this new target, the 80% or the 85%, success participation wouldn't have been reached. Okay. Because if you compare the 82 or 83 billion cedis to 137, it's still different.
All right. Let's bring in Professor Bokping, who is an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Professor Bokping is on the line with us now. Prof, grateful that you could join us. What will be the impact of this DDEP on businesses in the country, especially banks?
Well, the impact is going to be massive. Thank you very much. Good evening. The impact is going to be, and it will be felt in the next 2 decades. Why are we saying so? If you look at the maturity profile of the new bond, some will mature 2038. That's very long. That tells you how long this pain will stay with us. The pain will be less depending on the actions government will take, especially this year and the next year, in terms of they issuing new bonds outside the ones that have been exchanged for the old one. If you look at the impact of the domestic debt exchange on the books of the banks alone, put together from the 23 banks, they are giving up in excess of 40 billion cedis. That is huge. What that means is that the available liquidity to the banks, which would have enabled them to lend to individuals and businesses, will no longer be available. So it's going to affect lending to private sector and households. That would also have implications for business expansion. Beyond that, if you look at the entire financial sector, with this domestic debt exchange, cumulatively, in the next 15 years, they are losing in excess of 100 billion cumulatively. That has implications for business expansion. That has implications for household consumption and planning. Now, if government doesn't take the right steps as quickly as possible in assuring individual bondholders, pensioners, that their bonds will be honored, it will further heighten the uncertainty in our financial sector and the economy as a whole. That is actually not what we need right now. We need stability. We need to build forward better, inclusively. Why are we saying so? Because with this domestic debt system, it essentially undermines confidence in our financial sector. How do you build back? How do we build forward better? So there has to be greater clarity on the position of government with respect to individual bondholders who did not tender their bond. It's very important. And I think that the statement the ministry issued and making it conditional actually doesn't help. Why? Because government did not set out to achieve 100% tendering. No. Government set a target of 80%. That has been achieved. Let's move on. Let's build confidence in our financial sector. Let's build confidence in our economy, and then let's move forward. If you look at some of the banks, the impact of it makes them vulnerable, and some financial institutions could easily become a target for acquisition because they actually don't have a strong balance sheet as we speak. Okay. Beyond that, if you look at the fact that this also has implications for the revenue target for GRA, because the financial sector has been one of the major tax-paying sectors to our revenue envelope.
Okay.
If you look at the losses that the financial institutions are accommodating in their books, chances are that they may not be able to declare profit, and therefore it would affect tax revenue to GRA. At the end of the day, there's a high possibility that the capital market may not be restored immediately, and therefore the asset management subsector of the financial sector could be impacted. It may result in job losses. Okay. Now, in terms of expansion, you know that businesses are not, people don't go into business to create jobs. They go into business to create value. It's only when they see the need to expand value creation, expand their businesses, that jobs are created. So this will also have implications for job creation in the economy. Government itself has been looking forward to this, and that is why in the 2023 budget, government is forecasting a lower GDP growth for this year compared to last year. And actually, Ghana's GDP growth in 2023 is the lowest in the sub-region, at 2.8%. Okay, so what that means is that the fiscal consolidation measures alone envisaged in the 2023 budget, coupled with the domestic debt exchange and the frictions that are going to go through the economy within the next 2 years or so, will have implications for growth in the immediate and will have implications for employment generation in the immediate. If you look at the 2023 budget itself, government had indicated that actually there will be no recruitment in the public sector this year. So if the state itself doesn't want to recruit, how do you expect the private sector to recruit when you have applied a haircut, a deeper one, like we are seeing right now?
Okay, interesting. I'm grateful to you, Prof, for joining us with this perspective. Now, Kofi, government is also assuring bondholders that we will be able to honor our promise to you when your bonds mature. What do we know of that? What do we know of government's book such that people can believe that indeed government can honor that?
Well, I'm glad Prof touched on revenue. So to be able to pay someone that you're owing, you should know how much you earn or how much you generate as income. So if you look at this table on the touch screen, government is projecting to raise revenues and grants is around 143.9 billion cedis. Now, of this revenues and grant that will be raising in 2023, I'm going to consider only 3 key expenditure items. And we'll see how they actually wipe away a majority of this revenue. So if you look at compensation of employees, we are talking about wages and salaries. It's around 44 billion, over 44 billion Ghana cedis. Interest payments on loans, not even amortization of principals, just the interest on the loans you've taken, 52.55 billion cedis. Clearance of arrears from previous years is around 14.44 billion cedis. If you add these 3 line items, Brace, it's around 111.98 billion cedis. Now you want to raise 143 billion cedis, but just 3 components from your budget or your expenditure is taking away 111 billion cedis. You are left with just 31.9 billion cedis as a country to spend on other things like subsidies, fuel subsidies, like goods and services,
fertilizer subsidies as well,
like capital expenditure. You are left with just 31.9 billion cedis. And you ask yourself, does government have that fiscal space to even pay those that they've assured that they are going to pay the coupon rate? So let's move to the next table, and you also see that. Let's come to just domestic. What we saw was domestic and then external. Now we're talking about the domestic debt exchange program, so it's important to highlight the domestic. Domestic debt obligation for 2023. Maturing bonds. If you look at Dachi bonds, Government of Ghana bonds, ESLA bonds. Maturing bonds for 2023 alone is 31.31 billion cedis. Interest on all government debt is the same 31.13 billion. If you add the 2 plus compensation of employees, we are looking at 107 billion cedis. And if you subtract it from how much we raised the entire 2023, we'll be left with 35.4 billion cedis as a country.
And we need to take care of international
obligations as well. We're not even talking about external debt obligations. We're not even talking about capital expenditure. We're not even talking about compensation. We're not even talking about subsidies.
Okay.
And just your domestic debt operation or debt obligation plus your compensation of employees is taking away a chunk of the revenue you want to generate. So we ask the question, does governments really have the fiscal space? This is a budget. You can promise that you pay, but at the end of the day, we ask the question, can governments really make that actual expenditure?
Okay, interesting, very revealing data they put together by Isaac Ofieje from our research. That's grateful. Now, some former resident of Commonwealth Hall at the University of Ghana have been arrested by the Legon police. The student clashed Tuesday with police as tension rise over school management silence on accommodation for continuing students. The residential policy that came into effect this academic year saw all continuing students of Commonwealth Hall lose their rooms to level 100 and graduate students. But some days ago, a high court restrained the university from implementing that decision. Some vandals who are now resident of other halls stormed the Commonwealth Hall to take over their old bed. Here is a report by Prince Owusu-Ansah, read to you.
The accommodation at the University of Ghana has been met with several agitations from students following the school's management's decision to revoke the residential status of continuing students. The students say the management of the university has refused to admit the continuing students contrary to the court's order. Eugene Bediaku Jr. is the leader of the aggrieved students.
So what you are seeing here is a group of agitated students. Because as of 8 February, we had lost our residency on University of Ghana campus. Meanwhile, they gave us up to 10th February to make payments. Last Thursday, the High Court, a court of confidence, jurisprudence and jurisdiction, had given an order that the status quo should remain. And that means that people who were residents of Commonwealth or last academic year, continuing students, all of them are to be made to come back. So what we were expecting from members of management was to update our MIS web so that we will see Commonwealth Hall there and then go and make payment. And after we come here, we'll do manual registration and then we'll be given rooms. Everybody you see here, you can see their bags. They've been sacked from the UJ hostels because they have not been able to pay. And then our demands were simple. We cannot pay. The court has given an order. Take us back. How is that so difficult?
The aggrieved students protested against the school's management, demanding them to respect the court order and admit continuing students in the halls.
Boss, we want to make it emphatic clear today that the stone silent by the university management, not to kowtow to the decision of the court, is what? Tantamount to perjury. It is tantamount to what? Unlawfulness. And we want to let them know that we, the descendants of Father Bacchus, can never be intimidated.
But tension escalated as police and students were involved in scuffles over the school's silence on accommodation after an Accra High Court placed injunction on the implementation of the residential policy.
See what they are doing. Just beating them. See that man. Beating students.
Other concerned students lamented the exorbitant hostel fee and demanded a reduction since it will hamper academic activities.
The thing is that they gave us some hostels that we should go there. And then that hostel, we are paying about 4,000. And then as we speak of today, they gave us deadline to 10th of February. But then as of 8th February, that thing has already disappeared from our MIS web. Those of us that were not able to pay. Myself, I'm one of the people who couldn't pay. And so yesterday, they started sacking the boys that did not pay, and then they are using the places there. They started sacking them. And so as we speak of today, we've been sacked from that house, and we don't know where we are going to.
Now let us get on Zoom now and speak to a leading member of Old Vendors Association and the former JCR president of the Commonwealth Hall, Bernard Odrotechi. Ben, grateful for your time. You are currently at the Legon police station. What is going on there now? Bernard, if you can hear me, I want to find out from you what's happening, where you are, because we understand you are at the Legon police station now.
Good evening to your viewers and your listeners across the globe. Few minutes ago, I left the police station of Legon. Currently, because of this particular interview, I had to seek for a very comfortable location so that I can grant to this audience. So yes, I was at the police station few minutes ago. We returned to the senior common room of the Commonwealth. But as I speak now, I found myself a convenient place so that I'll be able to grant to this interview.
Okay, but so just before you left the police station, what was happening?
Fundamentally, it's all about students of Commonwealth who, since October 26, 2022, the University of Ghana took a decision that they wanted to convert the Commonwealth to a different architecture. The students then were on vacation, so when school resumed, they got a legal representation in court. They first had an interim injunction for 10 days. Then on the 9th of February, a few days ago, the High Court of Ghana granted an interlocutory injunction, simply mean that a kind of a restraining order will continue to be in place till the final determination of the full trial is given. Now, the student having heard this interlocutory injunction that was granted on the 9th of February 2023, proceeded to the hall because in the restraining order, it simply says that the status quo must remain. And what was the status quo before the university brought in the new residential policy? The status quo was that first, second, third, fourth year were primarily in the hall. So if a court of competent jurisdiction by not just a mean high court judge, a very great justice of the high court has given such an order, the student who respect the dictate of the law proceeded to the premises of the hall to take refuge simply because that is their residential facility. Now, the university management, upon sensing some of this kind of enthusiasm from the student, engaged the Ghana Police Service. And let me say on record that what has transpired today is affront to democracy, infringement on fundamental human rights. Okay. Because in any case, these students were not armed, they were not there to cause mayhem, they were there simply to say that a high court has given an order and such an order ought to be respected. Now, the police, you can see, as you are showing on your screen now, you can see even the police outnumbering the student body. This is very uncalled for, very unacceptable, and at this very particular moment, we want to call on all stakeholders for university education. Because you see, education is a right, not a privilege.
Well, Ben, that's okay, but have there been some students who have been arrested who you left at the police station just before we go on?
Surely, yes. The Ghana Police Service, in conjunction with the University of Ghana Internal Security, rounded up 18 of the Commonwealth students. So as of the time I was leaving the premises, some sorting out had been done, and I think 3 of them were in the police custody. I can't speak authoritatively whether the number has gone up from the 3 or otherwise. But from the time they took them from the Hall of Residence, they were 18 in number. But after the time I was leaving the police premises, there were 3 of them in the police custody. And I'm pretty sure that the lawyer representing the over 169 students in the High Court will intervene, and finally they will be granted bail.
Okay, but you'd agree with me that it's not in the place of students to go and enforce a ruling by the High Court, right?
It is equally not in the place of university management to also flout court order. And my brother, let me make it clear via your platform. There is not the first time the university management has in a way disrespected the court order. When the first interim injunction was granted, the university official disrespected that court order. We've moved to the second stage whereby in the court of law, don't forget that anytime you have a pending case in court, the plaintiff has lawyer representing him or her, likewise the respondent. On the day when the interlocutory injunction was granted, the university management was adequately represented by their competent, astute lawyer. Are they in any figment of their imagination communicating to the entire world that the lawyer who represents the university never communicated to them that the injunction was granted? Look, let us call a spade, not a big spoon. Look, I think that we are turning Legon into a capitocratic environment, whereby as a former JCR president, what do you think what do you think is the best way that this situation can be handled? Look, when this whole ramatas and this controversy started, some of us made a very passionate appeal that look, Legon is there not for the sake of a vice chancellor, pro-vice chancellor. It is there to serve the interest of current students, former students, and other stakeholders. And in any case, what does investment management stand to lose if Commonwealth remains? Simply, what do they stand to lose? And you ask a question, what is the way forward? The way forward is very simple. When the issue emerged, current Commonwealth students and old vandals never resorted to violence. Let's make it let's put it in proper perspective. By respecting the dictate of the 1992 Constitution, we proceeded to court equally. We could have mobilized ourselves in our numbers to challenge the Ghana Police Service. But we said that no, because in Ghana, we have the 1992 Constitution. So anybody who feels that his rights are being infringed upon, the person must proceed to court. And so did what the vandals and current students did. So number one, what the investment management must do, not what vandals should do. Current student or student, we have proceeded to court. And the court in its finite wisdom, they proceeded to some of our demands. And the demand is that the status quo must remain. So your question must be thrown to the investment management that they have to respect the orders of the court. My brother, if we live in a country...
All right. So Ben, I'm grateful. I think you made very cogent points there. Grateful. So Bernard is a former president of the Commonwealth JCR. Now still to come here and join News Prime. Communications Minister urges the Interior Ministry to increase number of registration points and registration days to allow more people register for the Ghana card. Welcome back from the break. Now, Minister for Communications, Esla Osu-Ekuful, says the Interior Ministry and National Identification Authority must endeavor to increase its registration centers and days to enable more Ghanaians register for the Ghana card. The Ghana card has become a crucial public document without which one cannot register his or her SIM card. If the proposed EC constitutional instrument goes through, citizens can't register to vote without the Ghana card. Responding to questions in Parliament, Esla Ekuful explained that whilst the NIA is not under her ministry, she continues to urge the Interior Minister to act.
The Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, as part of the SIM registration exercise, continues to collaborate with the National Identification Authority to enable seamless registration of SIM cards. The Ministry of Interior is, however, the supervisory ministry of the NIA and not the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. So I'd be grateful if the Honourable Member addresses her question to the Ministry of Interior. But we will continue to encourage them to increase the number of registrations per day in the country. Thank you.
MP for Krache West, Helen Adjoa Ntoso, who asked the question, said the NIA office in the constituency has been closed down for months due to indebtedness to the ECG and called for a speedy resolution.
Operations in my constituency has stalled due to inability of the authority to pay their electricity bill. They haven't worked for the past 5 months, so no registration is going on because they owe a bill of 5,000 Ghana cedis. So I'll redirect the question to the Minister of Interior. Thank you.
Now, MP for Kwando, Della Soa, says it's a mark of incompetence and neglect that the National Identification Authority office in the constituency has been closed down. The office, according to her, is shut because it owes ECG 5,000 cedis. She says this is untenable and government must pay up for the office to continue printing Ghana cards for a constituent.
Very bad situation. The population in the constituency is about between 65 and 70,000 people. I don't think they've issued cards up to even 20,000. And you know, you need the cards to do your SIM registration, you need the cards to do your Ghana card registration, I mean other registrations.
Even now, but it's new CI, if it goes through.
If it goes through, you need the card to even get onto the voter register. And I paid a visit to the office and they are there sitting down, not working, for the past 5-6 months because they are indebted to ECG to the tune of 5,000 Ghana cedis. So the lights have been turned off in the office, they can't operate. So that's the situation which we are in Kwando constituency right now.
So, I mean, have you taken any steps about it? When you asked the question, the minister said that is not her responsibility. What steps are you going to take about this?
Yeah, so now I have issued an urgent question directing it to the Minister of Interior for them to come and answer why they can't pay 5,000 Ghana cedis electricity bill to let the office operate and give the citizens what is their right, their due right, which is the Ghana card. It's a very pathetic situation. It's a high mark of incompetence. I mean, I can't give any other reason to that, because 5,000 cedis shouldn't be a problem to the MPP government. And if they can't pay 5,000 cedis for the NAI office to operate in the Kwando municipal, then I don't know what it is.
Now let's stay in Parliament, because member for the Mines and Energy Committee, Paul Chum-Berima, says the reasons why citizens are not feeling the full effect of the Gold for Oil program is because it is being piloted. The first consignment of oil under the deal arrived in Ghana in January, but consumers did not feel any significant reduction at the pump. Paul Chum-Berima explained that larger quantities are on the way and it will make an impact. He also said calls for the deal to be brought to Parliament is in the right direction.
We need to appreciate it was on a pilot basis. So clearly the magnitude of it, or the number, was not that much. So I know some one or two OMCs who took it really did reduce their prices marginally. But what we need to do is to see how going forward we can get this in a large quantity. That is, if and we're able to go through the process well and get it right, we should be able to get it in a large quantity. Then it can reflect effectively on the market. But now, of course, it came in. It was on. There was some slight margin reduction in some of the OMCs that took it. But clearly, it was a pilot. So let's look at going forward how we can be able to maximize the numbers, and then these will reflect on our markets. It may be a good call. It may be a good call that, of course, the representative of the people will want to understand the process and share it with their constituents. It may be a good call. But it's also important for us to know that it is not mandatory. The law doesn't require them to go. PMCC have been buying their gold. Boss have been buying their oil. So it's something that it has been done, or it has been going on. But clearly, if it's a call that I'm not throwing it away. It's something that should be considered. That, of course, if the ministers, the sector ministers from, the lands and the energy people can come and maybe give us further explanations, so that going down there to your constituent, you'll be able to explain it to them. I think it's a good call.
Now, family of 14-year-old Ibrahim Hafiz, who was allegedly shot by the police last September during a spontaneous demonstration by some irate youth in the Wa municipality, have blamed the police for not cooperating in order to get justice for the victim. According to the family spokesperson of the victim, Dakura Kobena, the police have done very little to help in their cause as they dilly-dally with the issue, thereby putting stumbling blocks in their pursuit for justice. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam report from Wa.
Irate youth of Wa on September 16, 2022 spilled the streets in anger over suspected ritual killings in the Wa municipality. It was on a Friday, and 14-year-old Hafiz Ibrahim, a practicing Muslim, was on his way home from Friday prayers when he was caught in the melee. He was allegedly hit by a stray bullet by the police in their attempt to ward off the demonstrators from destroying and looting shops of some West African nationals. Hafiz was rushed to the Upper West Regional Hospital, where he was admitted and the leg later amputated. Medical director of the Upper West Regional Hospital, Dr. Robert Amesia, performed the surgery.
During the surgical exploration, we realized that those two wounds were connected. I cannot for certain say it was a bullet, but I'm very sure that it was a missile wound, because it's something that communicated. It means that it entered from one end, most probably the front, and exited at the other end.
The cost of medication and amputation was pegged a little over 6,000 Ghana cedis and paid by his poor parents who are doing menial jobs. One main thing on the wish list of Hafiz and his family is for the latter to get prosthetic to ease his mobility challenges. One municipal chief executive, Isako Tire Movement, got wind of the plea and came to his rescue through the District Assembly's Disability Fund.
As you can see, he lost part of the limb, and that posed a challenge for him in his daily activities and, of course, going to school. Authorities of the Wa Municipal Assembly, the management of the Disability Fund Committee have decided to support the family to acquire him a prosthetic limb so that can facilitate his movement. And in that regard, the Assembly is presenting a check of 4,000 cedis to the family to support them to acquire the limb from the Wa Regional Hospital.
Uncle of Afeez, Dakura Kwabena, who received the check on his behalf, was thanking the Wa Municipal Assembly for coming to their aid, was not happy with the posture of the police on the issue.
On the side of the police, they're even adamant. Nobody has come to say anything. Since we took the thing, they even asked us how we got to know that it was a bullet that got the boy. So they said we should go and wait. Anytime they're ready, they will call us. We are not happy and we will never be happy with it because justice has not been served. I mean, when they come in to take charge of expenses and also restore the boy to some level, we will know that justice has been done.
The Upper West Region Police Command, meanwhile, has also denied any of their personnel shooting the 14-year-old that resulted in the amputation of his leg on that fateful day.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Now, the NDC constituency youth organizer for Swami, accused of inciting political violence, has been granted bail by an Asokwa Circuit Court. The accused, Razak Kwampa Avolia, was admitted to bail in the sum of 50,000 cedis with two sureties. This comes after he appeared before the court for the second time for allegedly inciting political violence in a viral video. Nanaya Ojima was at the court and filed this report.
Party supporters massed up at the court to show solidarity. The NDC youth organizer for Swami was charged with unlawful conduct. In court, prosecution told the court, presided over by His Honor Fred Obitre, that investigations have been concluded. According to the police, the viral video has been forwarded to the Bureau of Languages for interpretation and scrutiny. Counsel for the accused made an application for bail, reiterating the client's preparedness to submit himself whenever needed. He further prayed the court to grant the application as a show of love to the client on Valentine's Day. Prosecution did not oppose the application. The court moved to grant the bail, insisting prosecution files their disclosure for case management process to commence. Evans Amankwa is lawyer for the accused.
We repeated our bail application that we made the last time, that the accused person surrendered himself to the police, so he has shown good faith. And again, he has been a youth organizer for over 12 years. And within these 12 years, there's no criminal record of him anywhere, and the police can attest to that fact. He has been a politician for that while. He has not made any pronouncement which is conducive to the breach of this nation. And for that matter, the court should take all into consideration and grant him bail. And the court understood our argument and granted him bail.
The bail conditions were met in court, leading to the release of the accused. Razak Kwampa Avolia's release was met with cheers from party members who had gathered in their numbers at the court. Joseph Yamin is organizer of the NDC.
We should be around in any time to support any party person, because what we need to do now is to secure the independence of this country 2024. And so the only thing we can do is always to be around our people who are ready to lead the charge of getting the second independence for this country in 2024. Party people should be ready. We are also ready and will always be around to support a good cause and to make sure that this country enjoys the freedom that it has always been.
The case has been adjourned to March 9th this year. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break to return with showbiz. All right, so welcome back. Time for us to bring you showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Hi.
Happy Valentine's Day to
Happy
you.
one to you. Today, you can tell me where you want me to take you to, and then it's a done deal.
Well, you can take me home to my house.
Done deal.
This is actually for Ernest. We miss you, Ernest.
Oh, this is for Ernest.
Yeah, you're married. I can't get you a card. But you can have one of these chocolates. So there's coffee flavored one, there's mango, there's ginger, which belongs to Wabla. You cannot take this one.
But that's what I like.
Okay, just have the coconuts, please.
But I like the one. I don't want Abla to have the ginger one, so you can give her this. Yeah. Okay,
we're talking about gifts, presents,
gifts
that you can give out to your loved ones on Valentine's Day. I don't know why some people don't prefer cards, but there's something about cards that I think everybody should go back to. So we have a little report for you.
If I could choose my happiest times and make them last forever, the moments that would never end are those we spent together. Valentine wishes with love. If you're a fan of cards, then I'm sure you will better appreciate the euphoria that comes with buying one or receiving one. Cards have for a very long time served as a means of expressing how one feels, not just Christmas, but other occasions such as Valentine's. But it looks like gifting of cards to that special person on such occasions has faded with the introduction of new media.
I don't know the reason why nowadays they don't buy the cards, because formerly the cards move a lot, but nowadays the young guys don't buy the cards. Only the elder people buy the cards always. And for this season, they are buying wine and teddy bear and chocolates.
But what do you prefer? Personally, I would prefer a card with a single rose to a forwarded message via any of the social media platforms. Are you old school like me?
I don't prefer card because like now modern technologies, you can send messages or anything through maybe phones or something designed from like cards is like outmoded, so I prefer gifts that will memory I remember or something like that, but the cards can get wet, tear or something like that.
For cars. Because for the cars, at least anytime I watch it, I remember that, yeah, this person gave it to me, so I prefer cars.
I think I would go for any other expensive gifts, because with gifts, I would get mileage. It could be watch, it could be perfume, anything. I would get mileage from it. With the card, at the end of the day, to become rubbish that I would have to discard, or the flower will wither and then I'll have to throw it away. I didn't get anything from it, basically. So I would go for the expensive gifts.
There you have it. A card, flowers, or an expensive present or not, the message and intention is still the most important thing. Love, they say, surpasses everything. May it always lead. So much love. My name is Becky.
Well, happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Yeah.
We have Prime Movie Box this evening.
But let me say a happy Valentine's Day to my wife.
Aww. Oh, you can give this to your wife, the mango one.
So, Abenam Ponsabridge, this is for you, from Becky. So, yeah.
Who should I give this one to?
David. You know why David?
Who is David? We don't want to talk about David.
Hold on.
Not David, the director.
There is a reason.
Okay, please.
I'm told David has a card a lady gave him way back in 2003.
2003, David.
Yeah.
And he's still keeping that?
Yeah.
For what reason?
But it tells of the love he probably has for that lady.
Oh, speaking of love stories, I don't know whether this is a love story, but it has something to do with an affair. So the movie is a Sunday affair, and it has been released today. With both of them. That's weird.
In love with both of them.
Weird. Well, you can watch that movie. It's on Netflix. It's out this evening. Yvonne Nelson is also premiering her Kojo movie at the Silverbird Cinemas. Just about now. We can go there after.
I think so. We can go.
Yeah, but to end with today, let's update our playlist. Stonebwoy is out and More of You is actually a love song because today is Valentine's Day. More of you, Harry.
All right, anyway, so that's Stonebwoy with more of you there. And that's how we wrap it up, right?
Yes.
So that's how we wrap up the bulletin.
The Valentine's Day edition.
Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Thank you
blood.
so much for, always being here for us. Remember that there's more news on myjoyonline.com.